Teardown always struck me as a cool game, but I've never really been interested in the heist game mode that the base game has to offer. I always thought that the game was doing itself an incredible disservice by not mixing in shooter mechanics and taking advantage of the fact that it has the best destruction engine I've ever seen. So, in comes Mors Longa. God, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A mod that turns Teardown into a roguelite survival game with heavy influence from Escape from Tarkov. Forget about these other difficulties. We only play hardcore. Your goal is to drive down an infinite highway and get as far as you can, finding enough supplies and gear to prolong your journey as long as possible. I bought Teardown with the intention of only playing this mod, and initially I thought this would just be a cool distraction for a couple hours or so. But, yeah, it's really fucking good. It turns out that when you inject a lite-milsim shooter into Teardown, what you get is incredibly fun. You start each run as a victim of a helicopter crash, with 3 of your good friends who are very dead. So, you'll quickly scavenge the wreck for supplies, grab the full gas can that is on board for some inexplicable reason, and fuel up the nearest vehicle, conveniently located right next to the wreck. From there, the journey begins. The highway is generated as you drive down it, including random encounters with various factions, the buildings lining both sides of the road, and all the loot within. You'll want to make frequent stops to look for supplies early on, lest you run out of food and water and be forced to slowly watch your health dwindle until you drop dead. Not only that, but you probably need a better gun. 9 times out of 10, you'll spawn with a simple pistol and nothing else, which, is not up to the task of dealing with heavily armed and heavily armored bandits along the road. The gunplay is genuinely great, and quite realistic, which is surprising when you consider that the base game was not designed with it in mind. Sound effects are really high quality, and the crunchy sounds of impacts, whether it be terrain or someone's cranium, are incredibly satisfying. The weapons you'll find, or reacquire, have randomized attachments, and you'll even have to load magazines with rounds manually, which I adore. Having to stop and reload allows you time to collect yourself, heal your limbs, which affects your accuracy and movement, organize your inventory, and tend to your basic needs. That is, until Johnny Fuckface comes screaming down the highway with a bunch of his friends and collides with a road barrier at 100 miles per hour, sending scattered debris and body parts in all directions. Yeah, just a forewarning, beware of other drivers, because they're, how to put it, erratic? The fact that Teardown offers such incredible destruction adds so much to combat encounters. Despite the fact that a lot of the buildings will repeat as you drive down the highway, each encounter still feels fresh because you never know how populated they'll be or what state the environment will be in by the time the shooting stops. Not to mention the fact that at any given moment, NPCs can show up and hop out of their cars, or a helicopter will light you up with MG fire from above. Or you'll be strafed by an A-10 Warthog. It's also not uncommon to find factions fighting amongst each other, which adds so much to the chaos and gives you even more options on how to approach each situation. Need an entrance? Make one. Even something that would be inconsequential in other games, like using your car as cover, has drawbacks. Sure, you can hide behind it, but chances are it'll be reduced to scrap in short order if you rely on it. Or, God forbid some dipshit lobs a grenade your way or hits it with an RPG. It's for this reason that you'll be swapping vehicles pretty often as you progress, as it's highly likely that the one you start with will either be destroyed or run out of fuel. If you're lucky though, you might find enough scrap along the way to fortify your vehicle into the Mad Max death machine of your dreams. Survive long enough and you'll come across the merchant, who is willing to sell you a randomized selection of supplies, including weapons, ammo, armor, food, water, and healing items. You can also sell any equipment you come across on your journey, purchase perks from the vending machine, stash items in your personal stash, which carry over between runs, sleep, and gas up from the pump outside, provided you supplied it with the fuel. Now get out there and see how far you can go, Road Warrior. If it's not already clear to you, I think Mors Longa is really fucking cool. It takes what is, for my money, the single best destruction engine in existence and builds on it to deliver a really satisfying survival shooter. It's not perfect by any means. You'll encounter your fair share of bugs. The game stutters when loading in new chunks, the building variation along the highway is lacking, and the AI ranges from decent to lobotomized. But somehow, despite all of its flaws, Mors Longa is still incredibly hard to put down. It held my attention for way longer than I anticipated, and probably still will for many, many more hours to come. Now for the real question. Is it worth buying Teardown just to play the mod? That's a tough one. Here in Canada, Teardown costs just shy of $40 when it's not on sale, which is pretty steep if you ask me. However, the game does go on sale frequently, and if you can snag it during one of those sales, I'd say absolutely pull the trigger. Or, better yet, if you already own Teardown, what are you waiting for? Download the mod and see if it tickles your brain the same way it does mine.